Right, so we are set to go, and this afternoon, Ghana's housing deficit is in focus as we unpack the government policies and initiatives to bridge the housing gap, which currently stands at 1.8 million. Minister for Works and Housing, Okromo, joins me in the studio with more. And this afternoon, there is this beautiful brochure that is out in the public domain. It is an attempt to address what has become an albatross on the Ghanaian, the Saglemi housing project. There's a new initiative to have it, of the pending projects, if you like. And Minister Okromo is right here. It's good to have you here. It's very interesting that after being minister from deputy information to substantive minister to now works and housing, this is the first time here you are having one-on-one.
It's been a while. I've been talking to other people, but we haven't sat down. I'm here today.
Anyway, it's good to see you.
Thanks.
So Saglemi, the new direction, tell me more about it.
Well, just a quick background on Saglemi. Saglemi was part of, may I say, the old model of trying to solve the housing deficit. We have currently, as you rightly mentioned, a housing deficit of 1.8 million units. And what governments have been doing, I think since Kwame Nkrumah's days, is to use taxpayers' money or to borrow money and try to build what they call affordable housing and sell it to people. So you have the Nkrumah flats around like Tebiokoshi. Then Kutu Echampo also did some of the flats. President Kufuor then started affordable housing. In the Mills Mahama era, first they tried STX, that didn't work, and then they went on to the Saglemi project. Saglemi was about taking a loan of $200 million and making it available to a contractor to build 5,000 houses, which will be sold to the Ghanaian people.
Right. And it is actually on record that this is one of few projects that had the money available even before construction started.
That is true. To date, $196 million was paid to the contractor and the consultants, but 1,506 buildings at various stages of completion was only what was delivered. So when you go onto the site, as I have done both with my technical working group and then the media, you will find units like what you have behind you here, which have the shell completed. You can go in. There are some that have some of the hard finishing in there. There are some that don't have that. There are some of the units somewhere at the back that you will find they've only done the first floor, but have not completed. There are others where you will even find the foundation level not completed. So the technical expression they give is 1,506 units at various stages of completion.
Out of
5,000 for that $200 million project.
That's 1/3 of the entire project.
Yeah. Now, when Minister Tachia was in the seat, they first had to do an evaluation of the work that had been done. And when the report was produced by the Ghana Institute of Surveyors, the view was that for the work done, it will require about $114 million extra if you're going to finish the 1,506 properties that are there and connect water and electricity and a sewage system to it.
And that would take the cost to $340 million.
Yes, for 1,506. And therefore, if you now try to sell it as affordable housing, it will exceed the affordable housing threshold. The decision was taken
for the $200 million that's already gone into the project did not factor all this plumbing and provision of water issues, which are key.
Unfortunately, those who designed the project had a particular design for it. The Attorney General or government took a decision that the matter should be investigated. And the Attorney General, upon this investigation, then came to the view that some crimes had been committed and therefore proceeded to court to charge the persons that the department was of the view as having committed the crimes. So that criminal prosecution is ongoing. But we are still left with 1,506 buildings at various stages of completion. So Minister Senso Boakye, when he assumed office, started the process of requesting for the $114 million to complete it. And again, Cabinet had an opportunity to consider, but came to the view that looking at the financial conditions at the time, etc., and the fact that we are moving to a new dimension where we are not using taxpayers' money to finish these buildings. Government cannot find an extra $114 million after $196 million has been paid.
To the contractor?
Yeah, to the contractor.
And this 140 was to deal with the 1,500?
And the ancillary infrastructure. So government took a decision to go the private sector route and bring in private sector participants to complete and operationalize it. Now, I've assumed office. we have moved quickly into the issuance of the request for proposals. It's an international expression of interest where we're asking developers from all over the world, including Ghana, who have the technical capacity and the capital to come in and look at what we have and work with us to finish it and operationalize it to come forward. And that's what we did yesterday.
So could you, have you costed this?
Yes, we
How
have
much
a cost.
is required to make it habitable? Are we talking about just 1,500 on the entire 5,000?
Well, like I've said, the numbers that we have is that you need 114 million to complete this 1,506 and provide the attendant infrastructure that will make it habitable. And that is what we've put on the table. But we are inviting the private sector to come in and to have a look at what we have. And then they will make a determination, the kind of expertise, the kind of innovation that they want to bring into partner government to complete and to operationalize.
And this project is, and the objective for this new directive is actually what?
Is to ensure that the original objective, which is to develop housing units at affordable price points for the Ghanaian public, is achieved. Despite what has happened, which is now a matter in court and is being looked at, we still have to find a way to complete this project for the use of the Ghanaian people, and that's the objective that we have.
And this was launched when yesterday?
Yesterday. So yesterday we issued the request for proposals. We also yesterday issued the roadmap or the work plan. So about 3 months from yesterday, we expect to receive proposals. So prospective bidders have a 3-month period within which they can come to site, examine the buildings, the dilapidation report, all the master plans, the documentation, everything associated with it. And then they can put together their bids and make it available, I think, by the 8th of July. We'll then go through a process of selecting the bid that we consider most attractive to the government of Ghana. That evaluation will be done by an independent panel of experts in the built environment. And when that selection is done, government will then enter into negotiations to fine-tune what sort of agreement we can get with this private developer or a consortium of developers, and then we'll proceed to sign an agreement and let them move to site and complete the Saglemi.
So whoever is selected, from your analysis, I mean, the amount of money that should be involved is a $114 or $40 million that you just spoke about.
114 is a number that we have based on the Ghana Institute of Surveyors evaluation that they did at the time, which was around, I think, 2017, 2018.
So it is possible that,
that those numbers
depending on their own evaluation.
Yes, and that is why one of the things that a prospective bidder will do will be to go to site and do their own independent valuation of what exists there, even as we do a concurrent new valuation and bring the two together for the purposes of negotiation.
Is there certain conditions you are looking for in terms of who qualifies to apply for this project? Well,
if you look at the eligibility criteria that the technical working group has put out, we're looking, for example, for organizations that have experience in large-scale housing projects, organizations that can demonstrate that they have the financial capacity, organizations that have a legal standing of a limited liability company, organizations that can show compliance with local and international standards, organizations that can demonstrate innovation, because this is also to develop a settlement on its own.
Right.
So there are questions about where is the school, where is the hospital, where is the commercial center. So some innovation in how you want to deal with it. Community and social responsibility, technical and managerial ability, as well as ethical business practices. They all come together as part of the eligibility criteria of who qualifies to put in a bid, local and or international.
And since you announced, has there been any response so far?
Already there's been a lot of enquiries, both from the media and then from the investor public, and the direction we give them is to go through the process, go pick up the request for proposals, see the terms that have been put out there, and examine the facilities as we have there, construct your own bid, and then come forward with your bid.
And then when the application is done, what will be the next step in terms of selecting the most suitable for the job? I'm asking because of concerns that have been raised already by your opponents in the NDC who say this is another attempt to allow government cronies to benefit from this project.
Well, I think the first thing that they have done is to express a worry or a fear. And we live in a democracy. It's okay to express a fear that you have. What we have done is also to publish a transparency policy associated with the entire transaction. And the transparency policy talks about all the disclosures of information we are going to make available. It talks about the fact that we have an open and competitive bidding process. For example, nobody's going to get an opportunity to put in a bid before the other. All the bids will be received on the same day, one day to receive all the bids.
Right.
And then at the end of that day, at that 5 p.m. close, all the bids will be opened transparently. So you have clarity on what everybody has brought to the table. We've also committed in our transparency policy that when this transaction is done, in consonance with the proactive disclosure clauses of the Right to Information Act, we will publish, one, all the bids that were received. We'll publish the evaluation report of the independent evaluation panel.
Right.
We will publish the decision memo that at the end, based on all of these, this is the company that is selected as successful bidder. We'll publish that decision memo, and then we shall also publish the final agreement that is entered into with the successful bidder. So we're going to do this transparently and openly, and that's why right from the beginning, we've done this in the public with a lot of sunlight for everybody to see what we're going through. I'm sure if somebody wanted to do something funny, all that you hear will be that maybe somebody's been selected and handed over. But we're going through a transparent process for everybody to see and to participate.
And for that reason, the NDC concerns may be premature because the process itself has not been started.
It's a democracy, so people say anything they want to say. That one is not even my worry. But my point is that the facts will not support that particular narrative because we're going through a very transparent process.
And my understanding is that you've also set a timelines within which all of these conditions, all of these applications must be met.
Yes.
So that this can take off as early as possible.
Yeah, if you look at the work plan, so prior to the 17th, there was a lot of work. Remember when I assumed office, we had a technical working group meeting at the Saglemi site, and I gave them 5 weeks to finish all of this work that they needed to do to issue the RFP. And yesterday I commended them that they've managed to do it within 3 weeks. So all of that work took place, and yesterday on the 17th, they issued the RFP. On the 8th of July, they will be receiving the proposals. Between now and then, the site visits, so between the 9th of May, on the 9th of May is when they start the site visits with the prospective bidders. So all prospective bidders have the opportunity to go to site, examine all the documentation, do their own valuation, etc., that is required from that period onwards. And then by the 8th of July, they will be able to then formally tender in a bid. They'll go through the evaluation process, selection, and then the negotiation. And we expect that by the 30th of August, we, all things being equal, should be able to sign a contract with a prospective bidder to come partners to finish Saglemi.
So hopefully work should start before the end of the year.
According to the work plan, according to the work plan, site possession is supposed to be in September, so that by the 23rd of September, according to this work plan that I have here, they should be able to start mobilizing on site.
But let me ask you, is this the most workable way out in terms of getting Saglemi to become a habitable, abode?
There are 3 ways to deal with Saglemi. 1 is to leave it as is. 2 is for the government of Ghana, after paying $196 million out of the $200 million for 5,000 houses and getting 1,506 buildings at various stages of completion, the government of Ghana can then get to a point where it says it can't sink any further taxpayers' money or borrow money further into it.
Right.
Or if it wants to use a second option to say that we're going to use taxpayers' money or borrow to spend extra beyond the 196, then we have to come to that decision. Option 3 is to partner the private sector. So the private sector developers who have the expertise and the resources will come and partner government. So that government doesn't use extra resources, but we're still able to finish these projects, and then we're able to deliver them to the market. You would recall that already, even sometimes virgin land, you have private developers going there, clearing the land and trying to build. I bought my house in Tema Community 25, somewhere around 2009, thereabout. It was literally
no man's land.
No man's land. The private developer, Deftraco, went there, cleared the land and was building there. Today, you have semi-finished products, which already take away a bit of the cost. So we think that it's comparatively easier for a private developer or a consortium of developers to come together and work on helping us to complete this project.
And you are certain that this will be the final step to get this project, off the pending projects?
We are expectant that we will get a lot of private sector interest to work with us, not only on this, But for instance, when you go to Koforidua right now, President Kufuor's affordable housing project is still there in the bush because the model that was being used at the time, often waiting for taxpayers' money or borrowed funds to complete it, suffers some constraints. We're expecting that this new model, where the government works with the private sector, gives the private sector the necessary support or subsidy to deliver housing, is the way to go, and it will be teed off by the kind of support that we'll get in this. We have a housing deficit, as I mentioned, of 1.8 million units.
I was just going to come to that to tell me the plan, the strategy that you are putting forward to address it. But maybe two quick questions on Saglemi, then we can look at the housing sector in general. So you are an accountant, a lawyer, and you've looked at the documents. The handing over knows the issues surrounding Saglemi. How will you describe it? Was it just to dissipate public funds in a way that has been done to the extent that you pay a contractor almost $200 million to give me 5,000, units of housing? They're able to provide 1,500. Even that does not even meet standard.
I'm a lawyer, like you said. The matter is a matter which is currently subject of criminal prosecution, and therefore I would not be quick to comment on it. The Attorney General has put his view before the court. The court will examine his view and make a determination whether or not a crime has been committed there. But my job is not necessarily to describe it, it's to work towards fixing it, and that's what I'm working on.
One of the contractors died along the way. I hope, has it affected the case in any way?
Not to my understanding, no.
And I also heard from the Member of Parliament for the area, according to him, they gave the land to government for government to put forth an affordable housing project. Now, government is introducing the private sector into the scheme, and that changed the dynamics, according to Sam George, and that there should be a need for a renegotiation of the land. I don't know whether this has also been factored into this new plan.
That has not come to my attention. I think that government is still committed to deliver an affordable housing project at Saglemi. It is now a question of where is the funding coming from, because the original model was for the state to make money available to the contractor will develop, and then it will be sold. The state made money available to the contractor, $196 million out of $200 million to the contractor and the consultants, and in return, the state has this. The state now says that it wants to use private sector funding to finish it and still make it available for operationalization.
And the assurance is
in my view, respectfully, the dynamics have not necessarily changed. It's a source of funding that is changing now. And our objective is to ensure that we're able to finish this and make it available to the public.
And the assurance of providing this afternoon is that no government spending addition will go into this project.
I think the cabinet decision is clear. We have been very open in how we are announcing it, that what we are doing is bringing in private sector funding to come and complete the project. We'll also go through a process of negotiating with whichever private sector player is selected as the successful bidder and come to an agreement on how we can work together to finish it. So let's go through the steps.
Right, so my guest is the Minister for Works and Housing, Okromo. We are talking about housing and Saglemi. Now let's talk about the 1.8 million housing deficit and your plans to reduce it. Wow. Is it really government business to be involved in this area?
Housing is a basic human need. If you study Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's food, clothing, shelter.
Right.
It's a basic human need. There are jurisdictions in which housing is actually classified in their constitution as a right. I was reading the Kenyan constitution this dawn, and you'll find it therein that every, I think, citizen has a right to housing. And pursuant to that right in their constitution, the government has gone on further to even introduce schemes that ensure that it can assist in delivering housing. In many parts of the world, the old model of government building houses and selling to the public, or folding its arms and leaving it to the private sector to build for itself, is changed. And what governments are doing is that they are giving incentives to private sector players and crowding them in to deliver housing at the preferred price point. The reason is that if you don't do it, what ends up happening is that you have high demand like we do here in Ghana, about 1.8 million units. You have low supply, and the consequence is that landlords, property agents just take advantage of people. Landlords are taking 2 years rent, sometimes 3 years rent. Property agents are giving people the short end of the stick. Why? Because the supply is way lower than the demand. The way you go about it is by supporting the private sector, giving them the necessary incentives so that it is easier and cheaper for them to construct, And it is also easier and cheaper for people who qualify to get a mortgage to take up those properties. That's how come you can have a program in Morocco that they call the Cities Without Slums, where they are giving incentives to the private sector. In Abidjan, where I was a few days ago, the state is giving a lot of incentives to the private sector so that the private sector can deliver housing at an affordable price point. In fact, they have even come down to what they call social housing, where you can get buildings at very, very, very lower prices because the state has provided those incentives. So here in Ghana, what we are doing now, to answer your question, is that we are putting together an incentives package. We've already started working on and engaging with GREDA, material suppliers, the banks, etc., on an incentives package for housing in Ghana. When we are done with the consultations, we'll lay it before Cabinet for approval. I intend to go to Parliament also.
Is it different from the one that is ongoing at Apukuase? What you're talking about?
That is a specific program, an affordable housing program. But you need a bigger framework
to guide it.
That actually provides incentives packages for private sector developers who want to come in, master developers who want to come in and do 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, build integrated cities in parts of the world. When we watch CNN, we all see what they call the new cities that are being developed and how they are going about it. The way they are doing it is not government borrowing $200 million to do it or government using taxpayers' money. The way they do it is that they provide incentives to master developers who will then come in. So we are going through an engagement process to arrive at an incentives package. We will engage, travel the country, let the country know what incentives package we want to take to Parliament, and hopefully get parliamentary buy-in on an incentives package. It is a kind of package like that that will then attract private developers. They will then ask themselves, why do I go to Kenya when I'll get a better package from Ghana? Why do I go to South Africa or to Austria or Abidjan when I can get a better package in Ghana? So we have to become a bit more competitive. That's the way we can provide decent housing at affordable price points for the majority.
And talking about being competitive, and the primary source of all of this is the land. You and I know the confusion around land ownership in this country. Is there a plan to streamline it?
At least just by learning from other countries, what you do is that you make available land banks. So here in Ghana, we've already got land banks. Lands that have been acquired by the state for the purposes of housing and other things. So with the benefit of those land banks, we already have a first mover advantage. And I'm very optimistic that the land banks will form part of the incentives package that we are looking to make available to the private sector to come in and to work with us to solve the housing deficit.
Some say that there is over-concentration of some of these schemes in Accra and sometimes in Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, to the neglect of the other regions.
I totally agree. I come from a village community. In fact, this morning I had a meeting. One of my first meetings was with my district director of education and my district director of health. And one of the things they are complaining about is getting accommodation for young teachers, nurses who have been posted to the district to come and educate our children. They come around and all they are seeing are mud houses, no decent housing. They quickly go for a transfer and want to go.
It doesn't encourage them to stay.
And that is why one of the things that we are starting is a district housing program. In fact, the first version of this was a rural housing program introduced by Kofi Abrefi-Buzia. Those who are familiar with the economic history of Ghana will recall. We want to get back on track with a district housing program, and we've already had a number of agreements with the Ministry of Finance. Minister Amin has been very, very helpful. What the district housing program will help us to do will be to build in the districts with local materials. And Elton, it's important to build with local materials because the cost of construction materials themselves are high. You've got to find a way to bring down the cost of construction materials. So we're bringing together local materials and cheaper financing so that we can deliver houses in the districts at a lower price. The technical team has just finished all the concept designs and the costing. We have requested for a commencement certificate from finance. Once we get that commencement certificate, we will make the necessary announcement, break ground, and start a district housing program, which will answer your question of providing housing in the districts as well, and not just concentrating in Accra.
Is it different from the proposal you have before Cabinet that you are hoping to take before Parliament?
The proposal that we have, or that we are putting together, the incentives package, is for a general housing policy, which attracts master developers to come in and to do the big cities, 5,000, 15,000, 20,000 settlements, etc. That is one of the solutions to the housing deficit. Another solution is district housing,
right,
where government itself works with private developers to go into the districts and to deliver with local materials and cheaper financing at the district level. Because when you're working with the private sector generally and you provide these master incentives and you want 5,000, 10,000, they're not going to go to Ofuasi to build 10,000. They will probably want to do it somewhere in Kumasi or in Accra where the population numbers are higher. But that is also why then you need to pay attention to the districts and get in there as well. So we have the affordable housing program like Pokwasi, which will continue. Exactly. We have the district housing program, which we are about to roll out. And then we are also now looking to bring the general housing incentives, which would attract the private sector to do the master developments that we are looking for.
What about those that stand abandoned, like some of the projects that were started in here in the Greater Accra? I know that the Okromo upon one is some already occupied. It's almost like completed and handed over. Yes. What about the rest?
So, for example, Koforidua has about 380 units, if my math is correct, of President Kufuor's affordable housing, which is still in the bush.
Long time ago.
Yes. What we have done since I assumed office, I've met with the board chairman and the managing director of State Housing. It is one of our priorities. We're going to go through a process of assisting State Housing to get the financing for it so that they can quickly move in there and complete it. Elton, and I said this yesterday, the phenomena where housing projects are abandoned when successive governments come up is something that we must turn a page on.
And I totally agree.
And we must quickly work to complete these uncompleted projects. Also so that investors have confidence that when the government of Ghana, forget which administration, when the red, yellow, green with the black star in the middle says that they want to do this housing project, take them seriously and participate.
Right. And so the expectation is that all this will be completed.
We're going to start. We will do our best to start, time and resource allowing. As many as we can complete during the period, we will.
I know you have a lot of agencies under you, but would you consider housing maybe the most challenging in the ministry?
I think there are quite a number of things. Flooding is a major matter on its own. We have a national flood control program, which over the years has not been very well funded. So far, the data that we've put together suggests that we've only been tackling 2% of the Greater Accra flooding challenge, only 2%. And that's because of the resource constraint. It is taking the World Bank to come in and assist us as a republic with a Garrett project. And even that one has had problems in implementation, and we're trying to move the contractors and the consultants to be a bit quicker. So that's a challenge on its own. Then you have the coastal protection challenges. Tidal waves are rising. Global warming is leading to rising water levels. We have a lot of our coastal lines that are now being attacked by high waves. I've recently done a tour of the Western Corridor, where there are major challenges. Go to Dansoman, for example. Parts of the road are being eaten up now because of the sea waves. And we have to, again, contend with that and mitigate or build these sea defense projects to protect them. So there are a number of challenges, but in the time and resource constraints that are handed to us, we'll do our best.
And you have the resources to execute them?
We don't have all the resources. We have to make a case for the resources. We continue to make a case for the resources. I'm very grateful to the Minister for Finance, my brother Amin, who understands very much the need to provide and to prioritize some of these things, and we look forward to working together to deliver as much of the solutions as possible.
I must personally confess that entity like State Housing Company is doing a great job.
They are doing a great job.
I mean, the kind of houses that
they are doing a great job.
They've put forth, and the amount of money they are charging for those houses compared to the private developers. Yeah. Clearly, I'm sure that if they are more resourced, they will take a lead role in the agenda that you are pursuing.
They are doing a great job. We have to work on improving their capitalization so that they will have a bigger resource port. Some of the challenges I'm throwing to them is that in other jurisdictions, companies like theirs are listed
on the stock exchange.
On the stock exchange. And when they demonstrate that they are doing so well, what ends up happening is that they get a lot of literally free equity injection into them, which reduces their cost of construction financing, or even if they are borrowing, blends and therefore reduces the cost, and therefore they can take on bigger projects out there. It's just a challenge that I've been throwing to them. It's not an instruction or anything, but they are doing very well. I commend the board chairman and the managing director. I commend my predecessors, Minister Sensu Boache, Minister Tachia, who also led the policy direction there under the president's initiative. They've done pretty well. We need them to do more and not just cater to the higher end of affordable housing, but also to come down some more.
Well, somebody is asking me that the person is taking me back to Saglemi and asking whether, after all, if everything is done, would it still qualify to be called an affordable housing, knowing the amount of money that is gone into it? Are you going to cost it based on the fact that government has already sunk in $200 million and a private investor will be hoping to bring in even more?
It's a legitimate question. No, first of all, it's a legitimate question. Secondly, you must understand that we're now going to go into negotiations with private developers, so I can't put all my cards on the table. Thirdly, the point I'll make is that our objective is to still have a price point that is affordable to the everyday Ghanaian out there. And in the midst of the negotiations, we will come up with the best package that allows us to do that.
So we are not there yet?
We're not there yet. We haven't reached that stage yet.
But there's the possibility that the value may go up because of all the things that has gone into it.
Well,
there's also the possibility the government may intervene and get it to be sold at an affordable price.
It is possible. All things are possible. For now, we have put the RFP on the table. We look forward to getting their responses, and then we'll enter into negotiations with the prospective bidders.
I mean, you have a few months in this before you go for the next election, and the expectation from your end, I'm sure, that will be to break the 8. But what legacy are you hoping to leave at the ministry? Let's start with housing first.
So when I assumed office, we quickly did a retreat to try and prioritize what we can do during the period. And we've come up with about a 7-part priority list. One of it being to accelerate the affordable housing projects that we are doing. So in next few weeks, we're going to break ground for 832 new homes in Tema, Boom. Between myself, Alice, the chief executive of TDC, and she's done a fantastic job, Honorable Braco, the board chairman, and the entire board and management, we've managed to lock down the funding for it. And so in the few weeks...
This is government-private?
This is government working with TDC,
right,
which is, a government entity, but it operates very, very efficiently. And we're going to work with, private subcontractors to do this at TDC. 832 new homes in Tema. In Pokwase, for example, and I'm coming from Pokwase actually, right, I have a standing site meeting with the developers every 2 weeks. We want to fast-track work. We have not laid even one block at Pokwase yet. We've been doing the ground infrastructure, road, sewage, electricity, etc. But my big objective is to quicken the work by which we get the vertical units up. So in affordable housing, we want to quicken the process. And we also want to start the district housing program, as I've just explained to you. There are a number of services at the ministry that are, manual. Today, contractors come from Paga to the ministry to come and apply for certificates and fill them.
All the way?
All the way. And I've quickly given instructions on how we can digitize that so that you can apply in Paga, it can be processed online, and you can print your certificate in Paga. You don't need to come down. So we're digitizing a number of services at the ministry, including even the allocation of government flats and bungalows to public sector workers, as well as a few things. Those are like some of the top 3 things that we are doing. But one of the biggest things that we want to do is to be able to put in place a proper incentives framework. I admit we may not be able to implement it in the next 9 months and succeed by doing any project with it, but we want to put this framework in place, this incentives package in place, so that successive ministers who will come after me will have an easier path forward, because then the framework has been laid and advertised, and private developers know how to come in and participate and then run as quickly as they can.
But for you, do you think we'll get to that stage, maybe in the next few years to come, where a young person who graduates from the university and start work, that person wouldn't have to worry about saving to buy a land, but only have to worry about building his credit to approach
so that I can qualify for a mortgage.
Housing doesn't become a challenge he has to fight for the rest of his life.
First of all, that's what we must aspire to get to. Secondly, I'm very optimistic. I believe in the ability of Ghanaian enterprise to deliver very, very bold and innovative solutions to the Ghanaian market. What has been missing over the years is the collaboration with the public sector that unleashes the best potential of the Ghanaian private sector. And I believe that with this new model that we are working with, public-private partnership, the most innovative, efficient, brilliant private sector operators will find the Ghanaian housing market as a home within which they can then deliver these housing units, like it's been done in Morocco and in other places.
Finally, before I take leave of us, the rainy season is setting in. What assurance are you giving us that you're on top of your job and then wouldn't have to revisit the old spectacle of flooding in the area?
I'm sorry to break your heart, but we're already behind schedule on the flood control program because of resource constraints that we have had. I have inherited a flood control program that is behind schedule. As I've told you, even what we are doing is just about 2% of what we should be doing in the Greater Accra region.
The last time we checked, the amount of money involved runs into billions of cedis.
It's $200 million. So yes, if you do the conversion, it will run into billions. It's a $200 million project funded by the World Bank. That's a Garrett project. But what has actually been released or spent is not up to $200 million. But the implementation has been slow for a number of reasons. I think just last week I met the contractors and the coordinator, Dr. Ohene, to urge them to quicken the pace of work with what they are doing now. I mean, if you go to the Kaneshie areas, for example, all the work that needs to be done there is not even been done yet.
Yes.
And so until it is done, and to do that, we have to do the engagement with the people, pay compensation to project-affected people, secure the land lots that we need. We have to do detention ponds that will arrest water coming from the hilly areas of the Greater Accra region. So there's a lot of work to be done. Not all of it has been done. We are running as much as we can. I'm sure you see me every time with the contractors, chasing them, trying to get their payments for them so that they can deliver. But we are behind schedule.
So therefore, we'll have to endure it for
schedule
for the next few years ahead of us.
We are behind schedule. We will do our best with the resources and time that we have, and we'll make a case for more resources and some more seriousness in getting the work done so that in the shortest possible time, it will be a thing of the past. Remember that flooding is a combination of things. A, the water channels to evacuate water, and two, a certain level of rainfall. When you have inordinate amounts of rainfall,
there's nothing you can do about
even with the best channels. I mean, look at what's happening in Dubai.
I was just coming to that.
Yeah. So I think we must also have that.
Supposed well-planned city.
We must have that at the back of our mind. So we will do our best with the resources and time that we have. We are behind schedule, and we will move as quickly as we can within the constraints.
But from now to December, you also have a lot. You have political issues on your hands. Will you have all the time and the energy and space to also concentrate on your mandate as a minister responsible for works and housing?
I told you this morning, my first two meetings were with my district director of education and health. And then after that, I went to Pokwase for a site meeting with all the contractors and engineers, etc.
And of course, Yebi was all be calling.
Yes, my district director of health and education are from the constituency. So there's a lot to do, but it's public service. We will chew gum and walk at the same time.
Sure. Kojo, thank you very much for coming.
So much.
It's always been. All right. Kojo Okromo is the Minister for Works and Housing. We've been talking about housing and the new agenda going forward, especially to resolve the Saglemi housing project once and for all. We'll take a short break. When we return, we have more on the pulse for you this afternoon. You're welcome back to the pulse here on Joy News with me, Elton Gborbu. Now, I can take you live to the Ministry of Information, where the ministers responsible for information and gender are addressing the media, updating them on the latest on this Okromo case, where a supposed teenager was married off to a traditional priest. We can listen in.
We are here to give you an update on Okromo. We are all aware of the ceremony that took place on the 30th of March, and the ministry's deem its right to bring you an update on the welfare of the child and the way forward. So the Social Welfare Department, under the Ministry of Gender, has taken the child through counseling. The required medical assessments have also been undertaken. The counselors and caregivers have had conversations with the child and relatives about her education, her health, and her future prospects. So we would like you all to know that the medical assessment on the child, it indicates that she's not pregnant and she has no immediate health concerns. Now Okromo's date of birth, from records at her creche and her primary schools she attended, indicates that she's 15 years old, and she was born on the 18th of July, 2008. The child will continue to pursue her education, and the Attorney General has issued an interim report, which is dated 18th April 2024, and has advised that in the best interest of the child, and in accordance with Section 2 and 5 of the Children's Act, the child should be released to her parents pending their complete review of the docket. Thus, the child will be reunited with her family today, 18th April 2024, after the parents have signed a bond. This is the update we have for you now concerning now Okromo. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very short, a brief from the Minister for Gender, Minister Designate from Gender and Social Protection. Of course, this is live on GTV and on Ministry of Information's website, streaming live as we speak now. We'll now allow the media questions on this matter. I believe that the media is interested in all the issues around it. So you mention your name, your media house, and you are given the opportunity to, as much as possible, be precise and straight to the point. And please don't repeat the questions. We'll go straight. In the next 15 minutes, we should be out of here. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to ask your questions. Thank you. Yes. Please hold on. Yes, they are bringing the microphone. Minister, can you take down the questions?
The state will prosecute the chief who was alleged to have married the girl. Initially, we heard 12 years, but now it has been confirmed that she is 15 years and she is still below the age required for someone to get married, which is 18 and above. So if it is true that she was married to the chief, would the state continue with the prosecution? Then regarding the bond the parents have signed, why the need for the parent to sign a bond? What necessitated the need for the parent to sign the bond? Then why the need to conduct pregnancy test? Because as the minister said, she is not pregnant. Why the need to conduct pregnancy test? Because before somebody would decide to conduct pregnancy test, then there must be a lingering issue of maybe having sexual intercourse. And so why the need? Because if the chief is not supposed to have sexual intercourse with a lady or with a girl, why the need to conduct pregnancy test in the first place? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take first round of questions, 3 or 4, then I think that will be. And
okay.
No, after the AG will come. Yes.
My name is Sarah Apenkro. I work with Media General. So there have been concerns since the incident broke, specifically with how traditions, norms and cultures have to be evolved with current trend. We want to find out, from all the investigations done by the various interministerial committee, is there a need for the tradition of these people to be re-looked at, considering the roles they said the lady in question has been playing in the community?
Thank you. The Chieftaincy Minister is here. He will deal with it. Is that all the questions? Gentlemen, is that all the questions? Or we should answer these ones and then we take the last one, please. Okay, so Chieftaincy Minister before the AG. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. This incident aroused a lot of interest across the globe and especially international community, but you also raised a lot of issues. So we had to cover all angles. If I can start with the first question on whether we are prosecuting, AG will probably go in some details, but indeed, if you understood, especially when the matter came out, I was on air and I explained everything, so probably this question shouldn't have arisen. But just to repeat, that she wasn't married to the Wulomo. It's a ritual which she has been initiated into it at age 6, and so she was focused on it. All they did was to elevate her status to a queen mother of that deity. So there was no marriage. Yes, of course, there was some incident of some MCs embellishing it on so many things. And my advice to them, sometimes if they talk to the Ministry of Chieftaincy with my registrars, we can find appropriate people to manage these events. But they didn't know, so they went ahead. But there was nothing like a marriage. And so if you say that if she was married and a child that's underage, then it doesn't happen. It didn't happen, and that's not the case we're talking about here. So AG would probably answer, if there was no marriage, then there's no prosecution here. But seriously, come back to the second question. Yes, there are some customs and traditions that may well be looked at by my ministry, because we all know as Ghana became independent, before then we lived in the era where the tradition ruled, the chiefs were in charge, and the fetish priests and Abosom and all that, they controlled us. The Tindanes controlled some part. Me, when you come to my hometown and the fetish priest talks, nobody challenges them. There's a saying in Chi that you can see it's red, but if you say it, you've tread where we shouldn't be, and the spirits deal with you. But also in the past, as we moved into modern world, democracy, law, modernity, more education and all that, we've realized some of the customs and traditions need to be reformed. And indeed, under the Chieftaincy Act 759, we've been enjoined to work with the National House of Chiefs to look at the codification of relevant customs across the country, because not all customs are the same. Even within Greater Accra, within certain areas, it differs. You come to the Middle Belt, Ashanti, Dentres, and Bonos, and Halfwood. There are so many differences. But if we can get the codification right, then we can know what happens in which particular area. So it's ongoing. You remember in those days, as I mentioned earlier, when a chief dies in my part of the world, there were people who volunteered their children to be beheaded, so they can join the chief and go to the other world. These days, if you go and behead somebody, it's a crime. It's murder. So things have moved on. So the same thing, others will come on board and we change them. So I think that tackles the question. But in terms of what took place, we've done a lot of intensive investigation. And indeed, if I can veer into some of the questions you had, that why the pregnancy test and all that. I mean, you guys heard all the rumors. I also heard the rumors. We don't bury our heads in the sand. We live with you. We are leaders we are government, and we are public servants. So all the rumors you hear, we also hear. And just to cover the grounds, we have to do that. Just to make sure. Though, yes, we all know, and from my investigation, it was a right to a deity, not to the man who is in front of the deity. But, of course, when I hear a rumor of a pregnancy and a possible marriage, and our job as a government official is to cover all the angles. It doesn't necessarily mean that we believe it, but we have to cover that. And that's what we've done. And that's why the minister read the statement that she has. So that ends me. If there's any addition, the Deputy Attorney General will add to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a question about whether we are going to prosecute. Now, I wish to indicate that our office has taken possession or custody of the full docket on the matter. And our officers are reviewing the docket to ascertain various issues. One, whether what took place was actually marriage or not. We have not come to any conclusion on that issue yet. So the officers in the ministry are reviewing the docket, and when we come to any conclusion on that issue, it will be made known to the public. Number two, why, as the Honorable Chieftaincy Minister said, why the need for pregnancy tests? When it comes to issues of children, especially those below the age of 16, if you have matters relating to marriage, whether sex or whatever, the first thing to do is to see whether that female has been carnally known. So the medical officer decided to examine the child to see whether she has been carnally known, and also to ascertain if indeed, if she had been carnally known, whether she is pregnant. So the report, I can confirm that all the examinations were conducted and she is intact. So what is now left is to ascertain what took place on the 30th of March, and if anything adverse is found in this particular docket, we give you also let you know. So that is what I want you to know now. Thank you very much. All right. She'll come on.
So the bond is part of the social welfare protocols that need to be undertaken before she's reunited with the family. The parents are just signing to say that they are going to adhere to all child rights laws that this country has. So it's just to ensure that they append their signature to adhere to all the laws concerning children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more questions from the media? If not, then we bring the matter. Please, you have another question? You asked 3 questions. Okay, we'll oblige you that. Please.
Yes, sir. Now that the child will be released to the parents, would government support her education? And since it's a national issue, will government also take responsibility of her health in the future, if you have any consideration to that?
But like any other child in this country, there's an extent to which government is responsible for all of us, including that child. It's not a special case. There's an allegation that has fully been investigated. The matter has been brought to a closure, and I don't think that will warrant special care for that child apart from provision of education and ensuring that parents and society adheres to the laws of this country. So there's no special care from government. So please report well that government is not going to say that I'm going to take a special care of that child apart from what we do, please. Or minister will want to.
So the state is interested in the welfare of all Ghanaian children, okay? It doesn't end here. Still, social welfare will be making visits to the child's home. This is pending all investigations are closed out. So in the interim, the state still has a responsibility, and the state will be carrying out these responsibilities. If there's a further need to assist the parents in one way or the other concerning the best interest of the child, then the state will come in. For now, we are handing her over to her parents, and the parents are taking full responsibility for their child. They will sign a bond in lieu of this, and so for now, until there's a need, the government will not step in. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that we've exhausted all our questions from the media. We want to thank the ministers present here, Minister for Education, Interior, Minister for Greater Accra, Chieftaincy, and of course the Attorney General's Department, and all of you, our colleagues from the media present here. We thank you sincerely, and of course, from the police administration, Deputy IGP is here with us. We thank you sincerely for taking time off your busy schedules to be with us. And of course, from the State Attorney, my friend Mercedes Marie, we thank you so much for coming. God bless all of us. Thank you.
Right, so that was live coverage of a news conference by the Information, the Gender Ministry on the matter involving the minor who was married off to a traditional priest. Now, key matters that came up from this news conference is that the gender minister designate, Dakunwa Newman, says now Okromo, who age has now been established as 15 years, who was widely speculated to have been married off to the Wulomo of Nungwa, should be released to her family by the close of today. And the family has been made to sign a bond to be of good behavior. The minister designate also reviewed that medical tests show the girl is still a virgin. Now Okromo's birthday, 18th July 2008, also indicated that she's 15 years old. And the government says she was never married to the Wulomo per their investigation, and she was only married off to the traditional, the shrine, if you like. The Attorney General says they are still waiting for an update from the police, and that will determine whether they want to prosecute the matter or not. But the Chieftaincy Minister, says that they've done a lot of engagement on some of the cultural practices and how best to modernize them, to make them respond to modern trends. So that is the issue now. The government or the gender ministry, by close of work today, they'll release now Okromo to her family. The family has been made to sign a bond to be of good behavior. Now let's move to some other stories now here on the pulse. They are turned by NDC Member of Parliament for South Dai and co-sponsor of the anti-LGBT bill, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo, to get an Accra High Court to order President Akufo-Addo to receive the bill and signify whether he will sign or not, has hit a snag. The MP is seeking an order of mandamus directed at the President and got a call to expeditiously hear the matter. Today in court, the Attorney General was expected to address the court on opinion of law, but only yesterday the AG's office filed an affidavit in opposition which would delay the case a bit further. Member of our Legal Affairs Desk, Kweku Asante, was in court and has come through with this report.
It's nearly 2 months since Parliament passed that controversial anti-LGBTQ bill that imposes between 3 and 5 years on persons who engage in or promote LGBTQ activities. The bill is still yet to land on the desk of the President and is caught up in a legal dispute. The President says he's not going to receive the bill until some cases filed against the constitutionality of the bill has been disposed by the Supreme Court. But a co-sponsor and NDC MP for South Dai, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo, has been in the High Court seeking to get the court to, by order of mandamus, compel President Akufo-Addo to receive the bill and signify whether or not he will sign it. But that dispute, which the court actually granted an application to expeditiously hear, is still being fraught with certain legal processes that are delaying matters. On the first day that this case was heard, lawyers for the MP moved their motion to get the President to be compelled to receive this. The Attorney General's lawyers in court at the time did not indicate their opposition, but said they were going to respond on points of law. The court adjourned the case to today to hear the points of law from the Attorney General and consequently make a decision. But today, a senior state attorney has been telling the court that the Attorney General's office now has filed an affidavit in opposition and a statement of claim. This has meant that Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo's lawyers are also now seeking to respond to those particulars that have now been filed in court, delaying this process further. The court has now adjourned the case to the 29th of April to return to continue hearing this matter and possibly deliver judgment on the case. We've been speaking to Nikpapo Samuado, who is lawyer for Roxanne Nelson Dafiamepo, who was not in court today, who says, despite these applications having been filed in court, he believes the case is moving normally.
To file a fresh matter and we were to go by the normal court processes, we would actually not be in line to be heard by now. But as the court has been very gracious, because of the application for expedited hearing, as you can see, all of us are trying to file our processes on time. The only thing that was of a bit of a surprise today was the fact that the Attorney General, who had indicated at our last sitting that they were not going to file an affidavit in opposition, but were going to come and argue on points of law, have now filed a formal affidavit in opposition and their statement of case. So we would have to take a look at it. We looked at it in the court. We were served in the court. So we had a look at it, and we believe that there are a few points that we want to deal with. And so we would file a response to it, which the court has graciously given us. And so barring, I don't think that there will be any reason why on the 29th we cannot move. We've already moved the motion, so then the court will take the motion. The court may decide to give a ruling on that day, depending on where the fact that we had all filed our processes, or if the AG or anybody wants to make a supplementary point, they'll make the point. But as it is now, clearly we are on course. I believe that the motion is moving well.
There are so many in Parliament, especially on the minority side, who would want that by now these legal processes will all now have been resolved. But it appears this case is going to go into May, even possibly to a point where Parliament would have resumed, and these legal disputes as to whether or not the President should be compelled to receive this bill would not have been resolved. Reporting from the High Court complex here in Accra, Kweku Asante for Joy News.
So we'll wait until the 29th of this month to hear the decision of the court, whether this case will be heard early than originally advertised or will have to travel the long road. But let me take you to the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, because some residents there have expressed mixed reaction towards the relocation or the renaming of the Ameri power plant. President Akufo-Addo yesterday commissioned the new Kumasi 1 thermal power plant at Angomaso in Kumasi. Respondents who spoke to Joy News are entrusting the government to deliver on the promise of ensuring reliability and sustainability of power after the commissioning of the power plant. Some also criticized government for diverting attention from critical infrastructure deficits in the region.
It's a very huge plan that is going to help we the people in Ashanti to have light. But what the energy minister said, I don't totally agree with him, because we have so many other things to attend to, especially our roads, our health sector, our agriculture sector. You see the way the Galamsey menace, all these things they have, MPP have to tackle. But what do we see? I know they are doing their best, but their best I don't think is much enough. So the minister should come again. What he said initially, I agree with him, but what he said that this is a big project, no government who has ever come to power has done this before. I don't agree with them. I learned that it was Mahama who started all this, and government too is a continuous process. So if Mahama started and the Akufo-Addo has completed, I think it's the right way. It is the right way, in the right direction.
Many few years, young say, I may be a plant to see that. I can't be a material once in a while. It even is who we yanti be said with that. Oh, can you do the part? Hard part. You said, Domo can say a very jump.
I have never seen anything like this. The Dumso situation is a problem, but let's hope this plant helps us. We will still be careful and observe the situation.
But Ghana said the Utia, so Tinim, you was back with Tiara, no Obiba, so I'm a ever say, Domo can say, a band of crowns and until say 2 months away, and 3 months away, you won't say a giant. It because I don't can and crowns and
Menene Yabini. Yendi here will have Swaminta change. And no never boy, ma, a corner bano, I simple, they are mine. Plant where they say a bag and
I don't agree with the government. We need other projects to be completed, such as the Swami interchange and other road infrastructural projects. They should not deceive us with this plant.
Na the also omuye say akwan ni nyoma na omude omunsa ka omuwie no omunye say be betumi e de aye campaign na yakoyenim 2024 yi nti misire omo mfa we mebiri eni so the also omuye no omunye na santima ye ho ntoyen
ye ka dia NDC dikaye ba omo nwi ena MPP abeti yo nti eno ne nka se BSC ena ade nti no no da wanye nwi afi no
NDC started this, but they didn't complete it, and the president has completed it now. They should not lie to us for votes during this year. We won't let them deceive us. We can't really believe if this will solve the Dumso situation. I know Mahama brought this plan to Ghana, not Akufo-Addo. They shouldn't lie to us all over again. I know this won't help solve the situation.
Of course, power is still a major issue in the Ashanti region, indeed across the country. But we've got some reaction from the chairman of the Energy Committee in Parliament, Samuel Atachan, which noted that the newly commissioned Kumasi 1 thermal power plant in the Ashanti region will contribute to efforts in curbing the current erratic power supply. While speaking to Joy News at the commission of the plant, Samuel Atachan said the project must be promoted to ensure reliability and sustainability in the national grid in the midst of the controversies. Atachan said it was necessary for government to rebrand the Ameri power plant. He described criticism in the rebranding activity as propaganda by the NDC.
Where are we getting to in terms of energy and power?
We should improve our thinking that, and that's what President Akufo-Addo has done, that what a previous government has done, even if it's wrong, and you assume the reins of government, you don't throw away the assets of this nation. And now Ameri was started by President Mahama. Whatever it is, we are not the owners of the plants. They are bringing the plants here to benefit the middle belt and the northern sector. And that is what we should do. And then we'll be able to save a lot of energy because of this plan, and also help all the power challenges and the outages in the middle belt and the Ashanti. It's a good project. It should be promoted. It should function full throttle, and Ghana will have the benefit.
But the question people are asking is that after the official commissioning of the K1 TPP, would we have stable electricity?
Well, whatever it is, this is what we are trying to premiere. The result is that, why not? You think it's for cosmetic purposes? No. Eventually, you see Gensa here, and Gensa is going to give a very, very cheap gas to the plants. And what is the net effect? The power will be released.
So definitely after the commissioning would have stable electricity. There will be nothing like Dumso.
Well, let me leave the engineers to do this prediction. But I can tell you that one dovetails into the other. If you have a very serious transmission of gas into this area, and then we have the VRA plants also working, one will feed into the other. The end result, there will be cheap electricity for the enclave. Now, I've said, I'll repeat it, it doesn't have party colors. Everybody in Ghana needs electricity. And therefore, when there is an undertaking to build on the power base of this nation, and people want to poo-poo it, it doesn't accord with common sense. What kind of government do you want to come and inherit? A government that will not have the use of electricity. I don't know our sense of governance. Our sense of governance is that Ghana should be the ultimate beneficiary. If it's MPP, fine. If it's NDC, that is what it should be. But when it's not coming from your government and want to undermine it, it leaves much to be desired.
The major concern is that this is a deal you criticized when they were introducing it, but this is the same deal you are rebranding and relocating.
It doesn't accord the common sense to say that. You see, Akufo-Addo would have been the cheapest president ever to have taken all the Ameri plans and put it in the sea because it's coming from NDC. So when a man should salvage a bad situation, and I don't want to go into the economics of it and the value of the plans at the time, but I'm saying that today, President Akufo-Addo has paid regard to the Constitution that a succeeding government should continue, as far as practicable, what the other government did.
Thank you very much. And that is the chairman of the Energy and Mines Committee in Parliament, Mr. Samuel Atachan. He says that it doesn't accord with common sense if you are to say that it is a project which was started by former President John Mahama, and so President Akufo-Addo should not continue. He says that definitely he leaves it to the engineers to establish whether or not the commissioning, the official commissioning of the Kumasi 1 thermal power plant would lead to stable electricity. From Awomaso, Nana Bwachi Yadom.
Well, but despite this, a group calling itself Youth for Santiman, they've staged a demonstration in Kumasi in demand for a load-shedding timetable in the midst of recent unannounced power cuts. Clad in red, the protesters prevailed on the Electricity Company of Ghana and the Energy Ministry to ensure stable power supply. The protest was staged after President Akufo-Addo officially commissioned the Kumasi 1 thermal power plant aimed at improving access to electricity. My colleague Nana Bwachi Adam again joined the protests and has come through with this report.
Clad in red and in loud chants, hundreds of people took to the principal streets of Kumasi to demand a load-shedding timetable from the Energy Ministry and the Electricity Company of Ghana. Their major concern is that the current erratic or intermittent power cut is affecting their businesses. Some of them want the Energy Ministry and the ECG to immediately release a load-shedding timetable.
All we are asking Nana Akufo-Addo is to give us power, that's all. Apart from that, there's nothing he can do for us. He should just give us power so we can go back onto our businesses and do whatever we want to do. That's all. So what we are telling Nana Akufo-Addo, the ECG, GREDCO, and all the independent power producers, that is that we need power. We need power. Businesses are collapsing. We need power.
Leader of the group, Jerry James Suka, while addressing the protesters, says President Akufo-Addo has failed in the energy sector. He says the mismanagement of the sector has led to the current intermittent power cuts being experienced nationwide.
The mismanagement of electrical power has resulted in frequent and prolonged power outages, commonly referred to as doomsday. These outages disrupt economic activities, leading to reduced productivity and increased operational costs for businesses. And now, doomsday no criteria first, no, because here said those nanky idea who quite better so ya de be juma. Umasi esisu ana dum. Eduma na crash. A crash a project awakoye nyina na asay. The thing the Indian say a bedroom light in this time. It a do umasi ne ya juma unim say a bedroom to stop no. Say unim when you say why you so hard drive. Udum pebe crash it. It says you nyuma say it's a catch a bino. Say light now warrior no for say him say light private me so throughout a day.
But the NDC has also been sharing some concerns. According to them, President Akufo-Addo is failing to listen to the concerns of the ordinary Ghanaian, especially traders who depend on electricity to make sales.
We are demanding that His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, who is paid with my sweat, who is paid with my taxes, at least have some iota of respect for the people of Ghana and especially Ashanti-man, and at least let us know when we will have light and when we will not have light. The Energy Minister told us that we should publish our timetable. So we are here to publish our timetable. We are here to tell them and serve notice that tomorrow we are taking the lights of Flagstaff House and we are giving those shared energy to KJT Market. We are taking the light of Baomia's house and we are giving it to Asawase Market. We are taking that of Napo and we are giving it to Atonsu Market. And if they can survive the 3 days without light, then they will know and understand and appreciate the pain we are feeling, that the doomsday is collapsing our work, is collapsing our businesses.
These are traders and hundreds of people who joined the protest on the principal streets of Kumasi from Aloga to Amekom to demand a load-shedding timetable. With candles lightening up the streets of Kumasi, they want the ECG to immediately release a load-shedding timetable. For Joy News, my name is Nana Bwachi Dankwa, Kumasi.
And of course, back here in the studio, we'll be attempting to find solution to this energy crisis that we are confronted with as a nation. And so later, not actually later, some few hours from now, we'll assemble the best here at Joy News to understand what really the issue is and then to see how best we can put together a solution to address our energy crisis. And of course, Joy News is editor Evans Benson, US Minister. Evans, so we've got a program coming up this evening. This afternoon, my sources at the Jubilee House told me that President Akufo-Addo met all the players last night. And then, he was not happy that despite his earlier intervention, there's still bad blood between PURC, ECG, and GRIDCO, and tasked them to go and resolve their differences. Also tasked ECG to respond to the PURC letter publicly, stating their reason. For what I'm picking, ECG intend to demand that the PURC withdraw the 5.6 million that was imposed on the board members.
In addition to that, I also understand that ECG's position is that PLC hasn't got the authority to do what they did.
Exactly.
So they are going to add that into it. But that tells you that this is a big challenge. And if you listen to the president reading between the lines, for him to admit that there's a challenge, but also go ahead to say, thanking us all for bearing with them during this period, and if you read in between the NAPO's comment about, well, we don't need a load management timetable, the ECG's own position on this being, well, it is transformed into an issue. But then you have the president admitting that we are facing challenges with the energy sector. That's as high as it gets, right? It tells you that it is hitting the government pretty hard. And you begin to ask yourself, so why can't they solve this? Because they've relatively had 2 terms with very extremely minimal interruptions when it comes to power supply. Right. Why now, when it matters more than most years, because you had an election year? And I made the point that last time when I was hosting the chairman of the Energy Committee, that Dumso is the ultimate regime killer. They know that Ghanaians can't forgive you.
At all.
Why can't you fix it? There are a host of reasons why, and we want to pause and explore. Many have said it's a simple financial challenge. You don't have the money, so you can buy the fuel. Is it that simple? Is there something more to this? Is there an infrastructural challenge? The generation side, I think for many people that is settled because we have overcapacity there.
Yes, we can't put them to use.
And they said we have excess capacity. It's a case of powering those generators. Many of us have generators in our homes now. If you don't have fuel to power it, ECG will take your power and you still sleep.
Exactly. And this plant that was commissioned in Kumasi, when there's no fuel to power it, it becomes useless.
You're absolutely right. So we want to explore this a bit more. Also because this is a recurring problem. Every single government in the Fourth Republic has had to deal with Dumso. I've had to deal with an energy crisis. Rawlings did it. I remember, I don't know if you remember, in Rawlings' time when we used to, walk to go and watch Acapulco Bay.
Exactly, and those times.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I remember, when it was time for Acapulco Bay, we all have to go to a particular house that has a generator to go and watch it. I don't remember the times. I don't know if you remember those times.
I remember those times. I also remember the Kofor's era.
Yes.
I remember the heat waves and, the excruciating heat you had to go through. And then I remember an explanation that was provided by one engineer, which I found unacceptable. That it was a 10-year cycle, so we should expect Dumso every 10 years.
I remember that. I remember very well interviewing the then Information Minister, Oboshi Kofi. And he says the energy crisis will end on September 31st.
Exactly.
And there's no 31st September. And I remember that became a big story there because, of course, you knew you're not being told the truth.
Absolutely.
If the minister was just finding... Because the question was, when will this end? And I have heard an interview once done of the former president, Kufuor, in which he said that was possibly one of the most difficult times for him when the people who are around him knew that he could not sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. And he said that every time when he woke up, the first thing he would do was to call to check the water level at the Konsobo Dam.
Exactly. So and then, of course, then you come to John Mills. John Mills obviously started in 2012 with the Dumso that never seemed to end. He went on for 3 years plus.
Normal access to read his lips that will only end at a particular date.
It never happened. We had, in fact, they had to split the energy ministry into 2 for power and petroleum and bring in, Dr. Kwabena Nonko to come and fix it. And it cost him his job in the end.
Yeah.
I go through this history just for us to appreciate that this is a recurring problem. Just like we keep going back to the IMF, Dumso is a recurring problem. This government had largely managed to keep this under control until now. So none of our governments in the Fourth Republic has been spared this challenge with Dumso. We need to pause and reconsider what we've been doing. Over the years, many solutions have been proposed. It's the reason why we invested heavily into generation and building the plants and building capacity. Now we know, whilst you do that, you need to find a sustainable financing arrangement. Because this is a recurring one. If you have a generator at home and you don't have light, or you say you live in the forest, every day you must go to the fuel pump and buy diesel for your plant. Every day. So you must find money every day to buy it.
How can we do that? Let's remember, we have a huge debt overhang when it comes to the energy sector. One of the biggest challenges that forced us into the IMF program, and the IMF program itself spells it out, is the energy sector debt. And it keeps ballooning. You read the Energy Commission's report. We are talking about more than $1 billion we expect to spend on fuel this year alone.
Okay. So who are on the table this evening?
So this evening we have the chairman and the ranking from the Energy Committee in Parliament. We have the PULC going to be represented. We also have the former Deputy Energy Minister, Andy Japamesa, who will also be here. We have a host of civil society players who will also be here because we need to also get that independent view of this. You have Stephen Mateo, Dr. Stephen Mateo will join us. Okay. We have Kwame Jantwa will also join us for a conversation. We're also going to have a former CEO of Gridco who will join us also for a conversation. When you go to the generation side, we're also going to have an input from a rep from the VRA. Everybody's going to be in this studio of ours.
From 6 to 9 p.m.
From 6 to 9 p.m.
All right.
It's going to be across our social media platform, but also going to be on Joy 99.7 FM. My colleague Kojo Brace is going to host that. And for us, why are we doing this? The objective is simple. By the time we are done, we want a sustainable solution. Not just a solution that will last for 7 years, as this government had done, but one that will last us a lifetime, that is sustainable, that we can implement, but fundamentally also come up with ingenious ways of finding the financing to consistently make sure that we have.
Thank you very much, Evans. And the thought leadership program on the energy sector is on at 6 p.m. here on Join Us. But let me say a little longer on electricity, because workers of the ECG in the Ashanti region have described as unprofessional the conduct of the Ashanti regional minister when he ordered the arrest of the general manager of the ECG Ashanti West for performing his lawful duties. The senior and junior workers union of the company, they are demanding an unqualified apology from Simon Osei-Mensah, the Ashanti regional minister, and the discontinuation of the case. The general manager was arrested for refusing to heed the orders of the regional minister to connect power to the Kumasi Technical University after the school suffered power disconnection for arrears unpaid. Ohemin Teria spoke to the vice chair of the senior workers union, Bismarck Aduma.
It's not a strong wind. ECG, we have a procedure. And it doesn't fall part in anywhere that the regional minister, before we go and disconnect somebody, our general manager has to report to him. It can never happen. It can never happen.
So we still stand by those?
Yeah, we stand by it. He should withdraw the police case. Secondly, he should apologize to the general manager and then entire ECG staff for arresting our general manager.
For instance, if the regional minister decides not to apologize or withdraw the case at the police station, what then happens?
We're giving him up to Tuesday. Then let's wait up to Tuesday.
What is the relationship between the ECG staff and the regional minister in Ashanti?
We have good relationship with him until he arrested our general manager, which is not fair to us. It's very, very unprofessional. You know one thing?
Okay.
Kumasi Technical University, the students there, even when they are writing an exam that if not even pay your school fee, they will not even allow you to enter. But the Vice Chancellor is doing his work. So if you're also owing ECG and you don't pay us, what do you want us to do? You who are doing your work, you don't want us to do our work, which we will not accept it. Since it came out, the morale was so down, so we have to meet them. Even the other day, they decided not to work, but we have to talk to them and ginger them up. So we have to take it up.
But going back to the efforts of the regional minister, how would you describe it? Do you call this interference in the work of ECG or?
It's abuse of power. Okay. To us, it's abuse of power.
Away from electricity, Ghanaian primary and pre-tertiary students have started building robots that can compete on the global stage through the study of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That's STEM education. With STEM education having been identified as a subject that sharpens the minds of students, these kids have also developed easy-to-play mobile games that are hoping to win gold for Ghana when they represent a country at the 2024 VEX Robotics World Championship in the United States of America. Can you believe that? Later this month. And we have more in this report.
Artificial intelligence has taken the world by storm. Our everyday lives are gradually being influenced by AI. STEM education has started gaining grounds in Ghana, with kids being taught how to build robots from an early age. Through hands-on experience and guidance from dedicated coaches from Bountiful STEM Educational Foundation, these kids have honed their skills in coding, engineering, and problem-solving to sophisticated robots capable of competing at a global level. They are confident of their chances when they participate in the 2024 VEX Robotics World Championship.
So to compete with other people from all over the world, I think us as Ghanaians, we are going to do very well. We've been practicing and we've been training for so long that I think when we go there, we are really going to be able to perform. We were in a whole team. The team, everybody has their specialities. We have drivers, we have designers, we have their builders. So like everybody with their own speciality. All the drivers went to one side, all the designers went to one side, and all the builders went to one side. Because I'm a designer, me and my other colleagues who are also designers, we designed these ideas. We then gave the design to the builders to translate it into the physical VEX pieces. After that, we all came together to build the robot. This robot was built in 3 parts: the drivetrain, the bucket, and the roller.
When I started, I was taken to VEX IQ. So I wasn't able to go for the competitions, but all I can see, we built something that was like, let's say, a robot moved. So we attached wheels under it. So for a standing figure, I would have looked like this, which will be moving, could talk, and then sense other people around it.
So far, we've been creating robots. I've created a drivetrain, a claw bot, and then last year the competition we went, yes, I was part of the builders who made that robot, and then this year too, I helped build the robot. I want to become a specialized engineer in the future.
Co-founder of Bountiful STEM Educational Foundation, Seth Ogoayim, expressed satisfaction with the progress STEM education has made in Ghana.
Most parents are enrolling their children because, one, they've seen improvement not only because of COVID. The kids are developing critical thinking skills. They are becoming good at managing their time and resources and continued learning. And most important, our program teaches the children to be able to overcome challenges. Even when there's failure, it's part of the program for you to understand. And then we have this principle that each child have the opportunity to grow. So over the year, it's not about just going for the competition. We're preparing these students to be a critical thinker, problem solver, and most importantly, lifelong learners.
The parents of some of the children enrolled at the Bountiful STEM Educational Foundation have seen positive changes in their kids' attitudes towards studies and the ability to build robots and develop mobile games.
Yeah, so for the girl, when she came, said they had to download some softwares. And that was the beginning of their coding. They downloaded some softwares called Scratch. So she started using it to learn how to design video games. So in the house, she was able to design some video games for the younger brother to play, right? And they also learned how to, I think that was part of engineering, build small cars, so you see, they've taught them to, and I remember the last time we were going, they were saying that they should find problems in the society. So they're looking at the road, what problems are there and how will they solve those problems?
I think the experience has been very great, very, very great in terms of their mental capacity to think and the ability to do homeworks even without supervision. So I think that is a very nice program. This program, when you actually join this program, is not just merely learning technology, but it's more like learning project management and technology in addition.
As they set their sights on the competition ahead, these students are poised to make their mark on the world stage, proving that the future of robotics belongs to those who dare to dream and strive for greatness.
All right, before I take you to the United States of America, let's deal with this very exciting news. And Seth Ogoayim, co-founder and CEO of Bountiful STEM Education Foundation and Bountiful Technologies, He joins me in the studio. Seth, welcome. And there's also Jasmine, right?
Yes, please.
Right. And how old are you?
I'm 11.
What have you developed so far?
I've developed critical thinking, engineering skills, and brainstorming.
This is really exciting for me, Seth. I mean, how did you get them into this space?
Wonderful. At Bountiful Technology and Bountiful STEM, what we do, we work with different schools across the city. So we have co-curriculum and after-school program. So those students are from all these schools that we work with. And then every year we have a boot camp, which we usually head at the Pentecost Conventional Center and bring all these kids from different schools. And these kids work on different projects, and some are robotics, engineering, coding, and all of that. And then we select the team that will go and represent Ghana at the World Championship. So these students are like her. She's been in our program for over 4 years.
4 years.
And then we have other kids that have been 5, and some are now moving to high school, some even in the STEM high school now. So that is how the kids are selected. So those are partner schools, both private and public schools. We work closely with them and provide those training to the students.
So Jasmine has been selected?
Yes, her team. So
her
it's
team.
not an individual thing. So in each team, we have different responsibilities in each team. We have the designer. They come out with the type of robots for the competition. We have the builder. They put all the logos, the various components together and build that robot. Then we have the programmers. They are the one who program the robot for autonomous exercise or tasks. Then we have the drivers. After that, we have the project manager, the one who makes sure everything's are intact. How do we plan? And then the scribe.
Right.
They take notes and make sure all the designs and the engineering design process. You build your robot, it doesn't work. What was the challenge? They have to document that. So all the kids have a role to play
in this,
in the building of the team.
It's really exciting. I remember last year, a student from the Northwest International participated.
Yes.
But so Jasmine, I mean, you and your team, what exactly are you? What will you be showcasing at this event in the United States?
So that we can go and have the 2024 VEX World Robotics Competition against different countries.
So what have you developed and what are you hoping to showcase?
I've developed teamwork, critical thinking, brainstorming, and I hope that we will win this competition.
So you have something that you demonstrate to them? Is that the case? Yes. You have something that you've developed that you want to demonstrate to them in this competition?
Yes, please.
I want you to tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, first, I couldn't work as a team, but now robotics has helped me with teamwork, brainstorming, and critical thinking.
Yeah, so one of the things, they've built the robots. Unfortunately, we are shipping because we have to be in the U.S. By Wednesday.
You are shipping your products there?
Yes, we have to ship the robots before we get to the competition. So that is why even today in the studio, we don't have that. But where we went other places, they demonstrated that. So they build the robots. Looking at, we have what we call the drivetrain. There are different components that they have to put together. Like this year, we have the full volume, which they have to, the team have to select different types of colors on the field. And then there is a bucket that they need to fill. And each of the colors have a point. So you need to score as many points within, let's say, a minute. That is about 60 seconds. But you are working with Alliance. We have different teams from other countries. So when we get to the competition, they will pair you. Like last year, we were paired with the Vietnamese. So you have the Vietnamese team that you pair with. So as they are also working, you work with them to score more. So after the points, they distribute that between the two teams. Happens. So they have been able to build that, and they've been working throughout the season since April, when we came from the competition last year. They continued working, and then when we went for the boot camp, and then the selection was done.
Because of time, we can't go into, but just your final words to your peers who are watching you right now. What would you tell them?
Don't be scared. You have to learn how to do robotics and be an engineer.
We wish you the very best, and I hope that you'll bring the trophy home to Ghana. All right. So, folks, that's about it. Robotics, the new world order. And I'm so excited that young people, 11-year-old, will be competing for international awards. We'll take a short, but when we return, we'll talk about the American elections. Well, that's our show for today, Thursday edition of The Pulse. But I'm leaving in the hands of Professor H.A.C. Cancun. Prof, let me congratulate you on your appointment as Associate Professor.
Thank you.
I mean, I think it's worth it, and we celebrate you for that.
Thank you.
What is coming up today?
Yes, so there's a moment which has never been witnessed in American history before. A former president goes on criminal trial. A very, very rare moment in democratic history. And that is one of the things we'll be looking at, and other issues concerning the Israeli-Palestinian war and how that's panning out.
Right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Elton. Hello, good afternoon. This is America Decides. Thanks for joining us on our weekly roundup of what is happening in U.S. politics. Very, very important part of international politics and all that is going on around us. Today, we'll be looking at foreign policy, which is taking center stage in this campaign season as President Biden grapples with Israeli military and their posture in the Middle East. They have been attacked, and it's a very big story panning out over there. We also have another big story, very juicy details about former President Donald Trump's court case, as the judge has ruled that Trump must appear in court whenever his case is heard. My name is Eche Sikanku. Please be my guest for today. As usual, we'll start with a roundup of some major stories happened during the week. So the first one, over the weekend, Iran fired hundreds of missiles into Israel territory as retaliation for bombing its consulate in Syria. President Joe Biden has insisted on its support for Israel. He told the Israel government that the U.S. will not participate in any military campaign against Iran. Joe Biden continues to take a hit in the polls for his continued support for Israel's military operations in Gaza. A recent Gallup poll released earlier this month shows that just 18% of fellow Democrats approve of how the U.S. is handling the Israeli-Hamas conflict. 33% of Americans in another poll conducted by CBS are supportive of how Biden is handling the conflict. And so this is a foreign policy issue, a big humanitarian crisis brewing up over there in Gaza, and most Americans aren't happy about this. They are not happy about the so-called blind support that America has for Israel, but Israel also coming under a lot of pressure. And so this is a major decider in the election. Foreign policy always one of the major keys that determine the outcome of the election, but definitely a major concern for global politics as well. Look at what the approval ratings look like for this week. You know, we do this every week. So this is a CBS News poll and YouGov as well. We have the approval of Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas conflict. This is something that has been of concern, not in that part of the world, even in Ghana as well. A lot of people are concerned about this. And you can see the trajectory that it has gone through from 44 to 39%, 39, 38, and now to a very low level of 33%. And foreign policy is one of the things people look out to decide who to vote for in any election. So this is how it's looking now. Very, very low approval rating. They're not happy about how Biden is handling it. So we can move on to the next if there is another one in terms of our graphics for today. But if there's none, then I believe this sums it up for our graphics section for today. Is there another graphic? If not, yes. So there's another one. Do you approve or disapprove of the military action Israel has taken in Gaza? So very similar to what we have, but this time broken down by partisan support. Republicans have it here, 71 in terms of their approval of it, 23 disapprove. But when you come to the independents, which is what really we should be looking at, 47 approve of it and 48% disapproving of this. So this is a weekly roundup of the polls and how it's looking in terms of popular support for the election, rounding up our weekly updates on politics in America. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Eche Sikanku. Join us next week again for America Decides. Bye for now.